The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and it is the interview-based podcast which comes out each and every Thursday. And today we are going back to the fans and members series, I guess you could call it, as I have a legend on the podcast today. I've got Mr. Ray Price. No, you did not hear that incorrectly. My fan-based interview today is with a gentleman by the name of Ray Price. And look, this is a very interesting story, I must say. I met Ray at a game a few weeks ago now outside the gates of Combank Stadium. We had a chat. We sent a video to the real Ray Price, actually. Look, we had a great chat and we organised this podcast. So, look, it is a interesting chat about Ray's, well, first of all, how he became Ray Price. Interesting story there. Also, his love for the Parramatta Eels, when he started supporting the Parramatta Eels, all the usual stuff like why he supported them, favourite memories, players, games. As you could imagine, probably Ray Price would be his favourite player. And, yeah, stories of just having the name Ray Price as well. But, look, we also talk about the current situation at the Parramatta Eels, who Ray would like to see as head coach of the Parramatta Eels as well. And, look, just a general chit-chat as well about his support for the Eels. So, look, I really love talking to rugby league fans and especially Parramatta Eels fans, and what better Parramatta Eels fan to chat to than Ray Price. I really hope you enjoy this one. Thank you very much for listening. This wouldn't be at all possible without the help of the sponsors. Jack's Pale Ale from Parramatta Eels Club in the club shop. Get yours today. Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Teamwear, the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, and also League Tees as well. So thank you very much for your support. Anyway, look, that's enough of me talking. Let's get into the interview with Ray, and as I said, I hope you really enjoy this one. And as Hindy says,
get a beer, coffee, whatever you want.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy, and let's get straight into it. And today on the podcast, I've got a very special guest. So going back to the fans and members series of the podcast, because I love talking to fans and members, and especially when they're Parramatta Eels fans. But this is no ordinary Parramatta Eels fan, I guess, because of his name. It is a very famous name of one of the famous Parramatta Eels players. And welcome to the Paracave Podcast, Mr. Ray Price.
Good evening. How are you, Troy?
I'm going fantastic. Now, it is a very famous name, Ray Price. I just have to start off by asking, obviously your last name is Price. How did your name become Ray Price?
Well, that's an interesting story, Troy. On the day that I was being rushed to hospital in 1971, before Ray Price was famous, my parents were deciding between Bradley Raymond and Raymond Bradley.
Okay.
And in the car on the way to hospital, my mum had in her head Little Ray of Sunshine. So Raymond Bradley it was, and the rest is history.
So Raymond Bradley Price come before. I don't know what Ray's middle name is, but Ray Price.
Correct. And
Okay.
before he was famous, and way before I was famous.
Yes. Now, have you ever met the legend Ray Price?
I've met him a couple of times, actually. I used to play rugby for Chatswood,
Okay.
who were green and gold at the time. Ray Price wasn't as famous as a rugby player because the game was amateur. I went to school at Roseville Public School on the North Shore, and as soon as Ray Price went from rugby to rugby league, people started swapping footy cards
Okay.
in the school ground. Well, they were swapping footy cards before he played the game, but they were all swapping from Roseville. They were swapping Manly cards and North
Yep.
Sydney cards.
Yep.
Little old Ray Price thought, well, why not collect my own name? Anyway, to answer your question, I've got a photograph of me beating the scrum for Chatswood with Ray Price's signature on the back from about 1977. And it says on the back, to Ray, keep up the good work, Ray Price. That was when he was warming up on Cumberland Oval. I had to yell for about an hour to get his attention. The second time I met him was outside an Allianz Stadium game when we played the Roosters one night.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, no, it was a Tigers game. I tell a lie. It was a Tigers game.
Yeah.
And we were all waiting in the stadium car park. Remember it's probably still there, the dirt car park that's there. We were kicking a football around. We were passing a footy around amongst mates. And next to me in the car, waiting with his wife to exit the car park as well, was Ray Price.
What did he say when you said your name was Ray Price?
He smiled and said, he was very polite. He smiled and he said he remembered meeting me as a child, but I'm not sure he did.
Okay.
He was very polite and a gentleman, an absolute gentleman.
Yeah, no, absolute legend of Parramatta. And look, did the support for the Parramatta Eels come before Ray Price started?
Well, I knew him as a rugby player because I played rugby as a kid.
Yeah.
But the support for the Eels came because of Ray Price. The
Okay.
Scanlon footy cards. The Scanlon footy cards was the tipping point.
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, well, that's a pretty good way to get involved in supporting the Parramatta Eels and yeah, the love of rugby league. How many times has your name been confused with the real Ray Price? Has there been any situations like that where people have thought that they're talking to the Parramatta Eels legend player?
Probably hundreds of times. I do a lot of phone work. I do a lot of sales work. I do a lot of face-to-face work, and I think we've met a couple of times before, Troy.
Yep.
Sometimes I grow a beard very similar to the man. And when I say my name over the last decades, the first thing that comes out of their mouth, if they're a Parramatta supporter, you're not the real Ray Price, are you? So hundreds of times, mate.
And has there ever been a situation where you've gone along with it at all and said, yeah, I am?
I try not to,
Yeah.
because I'm not the sort of person that wants to seal anyone else's fame. But sometimes I'm heard to say, well, I am the real Ray Price, but I play for St Ives Rugby, not for Parramatta Eels.
Yeah, okay. Nah, that's fair enough. I suppose it could be a little bit like an identical twins situation where they could play pranks on each other and stuff like that. But very well said there that you don't want to take the fame of the real Ray Price. Well,
maybe as a kid there was a few practical jokes, but not as an adult, mate.
yeah, nah, fair enough. That's fair enough. Well, you've answered the next two questions, why the Eels and how did you find rugby league, but how long has that support of the Eels been?
how long have I followed the Eels?
Yeah.
So basically the minute that he transferred from rugby union to rugby league, I believe, I'm not sure he ever captained the Wallabies, although he may have in an overseas test, but he was well feared amongst nations around the world as a Wallaby. Then when he changed across, I followed him, and I think 1976 was his first game for Parramatta, was it?
I think it was, yep.
And from that minute, I was 5 years old. From that minute, I had to be an Eel. I had to have all the gear, I had to have all the jerseys, the hats, all the merchandise, and I had to meet him.
Do you remember the first live game that you saw Ray and the Eels play?
Well, I didn't get to many live games because every live game back then was played on a Sunday afternoon at 3:15.
Yeah.
And my family tradition was to go and have a picnic on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
And the two boys, my older brother used to be a Dragon supporter. I used to be a Parramatta supporter. Well, still a Parramatta supporter. We'd normally go to Parramatta Park.
Yep.
But most of the time I'd listen to the game.
Okay.
From the other side of the river as a kid. I wasn't allowed to go to the game.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times I might have climbed the fence to have a look. I'm not sure I ever broke in, but my favourite memories is when Dad actually took my older brother and I either to the Dragons down at Cogra when Parramatta played the Dragons, or when the Dragons played the Eels. I can remember Pricey and Sterling running out from the other side of the field.
Yeah, nice. No doubt you would have heard the home team winning with the cheers, whether they were loud or not.
You could tell.
Yeah.
All you needed to know was which end the Eels were running to. You could tell that from the outside.
Yep.
And then if you stood outside long enough, you could work out who was winning. But there were times when I was able to sit in the grandstand with my dad and my brother and watch them play as a 7, 8 year old.
Yeah. So over the years, you would have been to all Cumberland Oval, Parramatta Stadium, and now Combank Stadium as well.
Hundreds of times, mate.
And you would have seen the massive differences between the three stadiums. What are your memories of Cumberland Oval? I never got there. I was too young to get there. But what were your memories of Cumberland Oval?
Well, I'm a little bit too young also to remember Cumberland Oval. I'm not sure I ever sat in the stand.
Okay.
I definitely sat in Pertec.
Yeah.
But my memory of Cumberland Oval was the players running from the old Cumberland Oval across to the new Cumberland Oval where the grandstand was, from the cricket ground it used to be called back then.
Oh, yes.
Where they warmed up, and running across Ray Price with Vaseline on his face.
Yeah.
Running through the tunnel, and that's the last I saw of him.
Okay.
Until then, and I'd wait outside and listen to the game. Been to Pertec many times. I've got photos with my kids at Pertec. I've got photos with my kids with face painted and big Parramatta hands. I've got memorabilia galore.
And no doubt you've got a picture at the Ray Price statue as well.
I do have a couple of pictures at the Ray Price statue. One the other night was at who did we play against the Roosters? Devastating game.
Yeah.
I call it my statue, which is a bit cheeky, but I walked around to my statue and I sat under my statue and I took a photo of him above me with me. Absolutely devastated.
Well, I reckon it'd be great to get both of you near the statue, I reckon, and take a picture there, I reckon.
I reckon we could probably do that one day.
Yeah, we might try and set it up.
To answer your question about which stadium is the best to watch footy at, Pertec was tough because it was a lot of open air. There was not a lot of noise, but Combank is amazing.
Yeah.
You're right above the action. You just feel every play. You feel every hit. And I love it.
Yeah, no, I've often called it the best rectangular stadium in Australia, better than Suncorp Stadium. That gets a massive rap by a lot of people. I just call Combank a mini Suncorp Stadium. Very similar, but you're right. Even if there's a lower crowd than normal, that certainly makes a lot of noise around there. Who other than Ray, who have been some of your favourite Eels players from over the years?
Oh, you'd have to say the Crow, who retired with Ray in '86. Peter Wynn, I know personally.
Yep.
He's a great mate. The Ella brothers, Peter Taylor at the back. Mate, the list goes on. Growth, Kenny. There's a million of them. And through the ages, you've got, people like Hindmarsh. I'm actually wearing a 2009. I think that's a Jared Hayne.
Oh, yes.
Would have worn this jersey.
Yep.
I was at the semi-final in 2009 against the Dogs, and I hadn't got tickets for the grand final until we beat the Dogs that day, because we were odds. We were never going to win that game. And then I got tickets to watch the Melbourne game the next week.
That would have been lucky to get tickets then.
Mate, begged, borrowed and stealed. I was also at the 2022 Panthers game, and I was able to take my son, who was then 16. He's now 18.
Yeah.
So I've had some experiences.
And that, obviously, that support for the Eels, has that flowed down to your kids as well?
Well, they're both Eels supporters. The 18-year-olds do ride or die. The 16-year-old tends to come along if they're winning, so he's a bit in and out.
Bit of a bandwagoner.
Yes, but that's all right. He's still there.
Yeah.
If we're winning, he'll come. He was at the Dogs game with me, and he had a massive smile on his face until the end result.
That's the main thing. But look, you mentioned some great names there. Out of those 80s Eels players, or even beforehand, do you think one of those or two of those should be an immortal of rugby league, and who should it be? That's
a very tough question to ask Ray Price.
It is because he does get a lot of mentions as an immortal.
I think he's possibly one of the toughest players to ever play the game. They could not keep him down. He was called Mr. Perpetual Motion. He was called Praying Mantis. He was called all sorts of things. But no matter how hard they hit him, he got up and came back. I think he deserves to be immortal, but definitely Cronin, Sterling, Guru. Mate, I'm going to say one that's a bit controversial. I think Hindmarsh.
Okay. Yeah.
An immortal of the club. I'm not sure. There's so many names. If Jared Hayne hadn't got himself into trouble, he probably deserved it. I mean, he single-handedly dragged us from last position to the top 8 in 2009, single-handedly. I mean, he had Daniel Mortimer and he had a few other guys around him, Reddy and Growth Jr., and there were some good players around him. There were some great players around him.
Yep.
But they were never going to make that grand final if it wasn't for him.
No, there was certainly some great standout games in that season. Obviously, the semi-final against the Dragons. I think there was a game against the Tigers as well, where I think he scored that chip and chase try. Obviously, the prelim final as well. There was a little bit of worry about him playing the grand final after that Bulldogs first try. But you're 100% right. And won the Dally M Medal of the Year that year. There's so many there. Ray, definitely a dual international, and probably though if he played in these times, he probably wouldn't play that many games, to be honest, because of the HIA rules. As you said, he was so tough back in the day, and he was a target, and he just loved tackling and putting his head in the wrong position. But as I said, he wouldn't have played that many games because he'd have to sit out so many these days.
Well, they don't have the magic sponge anymore, mate. So I remember Ray Price going down. I thought, oh no, the game's over. Price is down. They'd run out with a bucket and the sponge, and they'd rub it on his knee, and he'd be up.
Yeah, the old Magic Sponge, eh? Yeah, great 80s memories for that one with the old Magic Sponge. Yeah, definitely, 100%. Who would you have liked to have seen play for Parramatta that didn't play for Para?
Oh,
If you
that's
had
a
if you had an open checkbook, and you could sign a player to play at Parramatta, who would you have got?
do you know, I'm going to say someone that you're not going to expect.
Okay,
Jonathan Thurston.
okay, yeah,
I think if we got him from the Dogs, that would have been a completely different time of the year, of the decade. Completely different. But he didn't want to come to Parramatta. He wanted to go back to Queensland.
yeah. No, that's a. I mean, calls have made that he will be a future immortal of the game, but yeah, he certainly won that first premiership up at North Queensland. Won the premiership at Canterbury as well.
He actually won. He actually won one off the bench for the Bulldogs.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, 2004. So, if we happened to nab him for 2005, Parramatta made the prelim final, and the result could have been different against North Queensland.
That's the first one that comes to mind. I mean, you're now talking favourite players of all time. All of my favourite players of all time have been Parramatta players, but Darren Lockyer would have been another one. Laurie Daly, Brad Clyde, all of those guys who are from massive teams. Gordon Tallis, these guys, if we had have had them at any stage, they would have fit straight into our system and improved it.
I think I do believe in 1995 there was talk that Darren Lockyer might have come to Parramatta. I think there might have also been talk back in the day as well of Brad Fittler maybe coming to Parramatta as well.
Was that between Panthers and the Roosters before he went to the Roosters?
I think so.
Yeah.
Around that time. But yeah, unfortunately, it never eventuated. But definitely, if any of those players that you mentioned came to Parramatta, we certainly wouldn't be on a 38-year drought of a premiership if they came. That's for sure.
The words "always a bridesmaid" come to mind, mate.
Yeah.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. We never seem to sign that big fish that we're chasing.
No, I was only talking to somebody today, and I can't remember. I can't remember the last recent or the last major signing that Parramatta has signed.
But do you know the flip side of that is that we've got some solid. We're not spending a lot of money. We've got some really good juniors coming through. They might be a couple of years away. I mean, you saw Matt debut on the weekend. He's a great Matt Arthur, great player. And there's others like him, Blaze Talangi. They're just fresh, but they'll fit into the squad and they'll fill the holes. And you never know. We might just make the finals this year. But I tell you what, with Lomax next year and Moses and Brown, what a team that is.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we saw in the State of Origin the combination between Mitch and Zach. The question is, where does Zach play in 2025? Does he play centre or does he play wing? Personally, I would probably throw him on the wing. He's playing his best football ever there this season.
I don't think Zach really cares where he plays, mate. He just wants to be in a winning team and he wants to have fun. And if you see at Origin, you see the smile on his face, he loved it.
Yeah. Well,
he just doesn't want to be put in a box, that's all.
That's it. Well, you mentioned some games that you've that stand out for you. The 2009 prelim final. What about favourite away games that you've been to that you've seen Parramatta play? What has there been any that stand out?
I've got one that comes to mind straight away. Hindy's 300th out at Penrith.
Yes.
We had them dead to rights. They were 6 down with a second to go, and Luke Burt had to hand over the ball. They threw the ball 24 times before they scored off a kick. They evened up, and they got us in golden point.
And that's a favourite game of yours, or a favourite away game?
You said a memorable away game, not a favourite away game.
Okay. Well, that's a memorable one, and that is actually a memorable one for me as well, because that was actually my Bucks night, and it was Hindy's 300th. So I remember crying in the stands, saying, it's not fair. Hindy should have won his 300th. And
but I also.
What about a favourite game?
That was a big night.
What about
that was a big night for you?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a good day. It just wasn't a good night with the result and Hindy losing his 300th. What about a favourite away game? Obviously, Parramatta's going to win.
The win over the Tigers, where you mentioned it already, the semi with the chip and chase. I was at Allianz that day, and as a matter of fact, that's the day I saw Pricey in the car park.
Okay, yeah.
That's a memorable win at Allianz. I've seen us beat the Roosters. I've sat in the members at the Roosters and seen us beat the Roosters. That's always fun. I've been to Newcastle. I've ridden a motorbike up to Newcastle with my Parramatta jersey on.
Nice.
To see us to take on the Johns boys and beat them sometimes. Mate, I've got 1,000. They're all good.
Yeah.
All Eels games are good, mate.
They can be. Well, they can be, but definitely the ones that you win, that's for sure. Is there a ground that you haven't been to that you'd like to go and watch an Eels game at live? That's on your list?
Well, I've been to the MCG, but only for the Origin. Obviously, they don't play there. I've never been to Suncorp.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind watching them play up there. I wouldn't mind going to Darwin. Apart from that, no, I've been to most of the suburban grounds. I've been to Balmain. I've been to Campbelltown. I've been to, Brookie. Brookie's a favourite of mine because the locals hate us down there.
The old Manly and Para rivalry.
Oh, so if there was one ground that I'd like to watch them play at, it would be Brisbane, and watch them give it to Brisbane. That'd be great.
Yeah, pretty good record up there of recent times. Not so much last season, but previous to that, pretty good record. That game, I think this year's later in August this year.
Yeah.
Have you been to any of the grand final winning games?
No.
No.
That's a sad one. I watched 81, 82, 83, and I watched 86.
Okay.
I would have had to go with my dad because I would have only been 15 years old in 86.
Yeah.
I watched them all. Never live. I didn't go to 01 because I thought I'd jinx it. I bought the jersey in 01. I went to 09. You can see the jersey I bought. And I went to 2022. But no is the answer to your question. I've never seen a live grand final win. I've seen it on the telly.
Well, that's both on our bucket list to hopefully see one year, that's for sure. I was there in 01. I missed 09, but was there in 22 as well. So let's not...
01 was devastating. We were the best team by a mile all year.
Speaking of 01, what about favourite coaches from over the years? Have you had a favourite or two, or is there one that stands out for you that you've liked?
Well, a very little known fact that you pointed out the other day is that Ray Price was captain coach at one stage.
Yeah, one game, yeah.
So he'd be a favourite. Look, Brian Smith had a very good run. I actually have a really a soft spot for Brad Arthur. I think he's a very talented coach. I'm just not sure about his man managing abilities or his assistant abilities. I don't know. Look, who was it? Edge took over for a while, Stephen Edge. But the guy that you have to you have to give it to is Jack Gibson.
Yeah.
The best of all time.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Definitely 3 premierships in a row. Only eclipsed 40 years later by the Panthers.
By who?
The Panthers, unfortunately. Yeah, nah, it's tough being a Parramatta supporter living in Penrith, by the way. Don't worry about that.
Aren't they our little brothers?
Yeah, well, they were up until about 4 years ago.
Yeah, gotcha.
But they've certainly taken that mantle over. Although we do have a good record against them, except not in big games, unfortunately. But you mentioned merchandise and memorabilia before. Do you have a favourite piece of memorabilia or merchandise?
Yep, I do. When I was a kid and they won the premiership in 1986, I had the jersey, the James Hardie jersey. I wore it until it was threadbare. I cut the arms off it. I don't have that anymore. But what I do have from that year is my father-in-law's Hardie jersey. Okay. He's passed away.
Yeah.
I've got the original jersey in my cupboard from that year, 1986, which he passed down to me.
Ah, nice. Nice. I've got 1986 was the first year that I started supporting Parramatta, and I've still got my first ever jersey, which was the 86 jersey, hanging in the Parra Cave.
I wish I had mine.
Yeah.
I wish I had mine, but I've still got one that's an original.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Talking about jerseys, is there a favourite Eels jersey that you've seen over the years that you've really liked?
Oh,
I mean, that 86 jersey does stand out for a lot of people as their favourite.
I didn't mind the 01 jersey.
Okay. Yeah.
I really like the 01 jersey because it represents a winning culture to me.
Okay, yeah.
Whether we had the yellow at the top and the blue at the bottom, or the blue at the top and the yellow at the bottom, it didn't matter. What it represented was the winning culture and the systems that they had in place to win games. So I don't mind. I actually like the Hindmarsh jersey.
Yep. Yeah, and no doubt then you would have been happy with the 2024 Heritage jersey that came out.
Well, next year's going to be even better. James Hardie's back on board.
That's right. Blast from the past, and yeah, James Hardie back into it. So no doubt there might be some 80s, early 90s Heritage jerseys coming out with that James Hardie logo on the front.
But sorry, I jumped ahead. Yes, I did love this year's Heritage jersey. To answer your question, I jumped ahead.
What are your thoughts about James Hardie coming back on board as a major sponsor? Obviously, it brings back good or great memories for Parramatta Eels fans.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's a blend of the old and the new, and I think the sponsorship and the club all coming together. I just can't see any downside. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, that's for sure. Pretty synonymous, James Hardie and the Parramatta Eels. Let's talk about this year because it's been a bit tough for Parramatta fans in 2024. We just got off the bottom of the ladder thanks to the Roosters smashing the Tigers on the weekend, but still a lot of work to do. What do you, as a fan, what do you think has gone wrong, either on the field or off the field? Where do you think it's gone wrong this year?
That's a tough question because I think you know me well enough, Troy, that I always try and stay positive about my team. I'm not one of those guys that's going to jump on the coach or jump on the assistant coach or jump on this player or jump on that player or blame this or blame that. That's not what I'm about. I don't want to blame the club. I don't want to blame the footy club, the Lees club, the board. What I think is we have had some close games. We've had Moses and Gutho out for short periods of time. And if you look at some of the refereeing and bunker decisions we've had this year, we could be 3 or 4 games better off than what we are. And what I can tell you, still, I did the calculation the other day. If we win every game from here, we can still come second.
Really?
On 100%. That's every game. Obviously, we're not going to win every game.
Yeah.
But we win half of them, or 3/4 of them, we make the 8. So I haven't given up. As a matter of fact, I had a very small wager the night before Brad Arthur was sacked. I didn't know he was being sacked. I thought Wayne Bennett. I thought Wayne Bennett was a ruse, and they were going to keep Arthur.
Okay.
I actually had a very small wager at 10-1 for Parramatta to make the 8, and I still believe I haven't backed down on that bet. I reckon we're still a chance.
I really admire and like your positivity.
I think we're paying about 35s or 40s now, so I wish I'd waited, but whatever.
Yeah, well, hindsight can be a great thing, but look, as I said, I admire and love your positivity, and look, you never know until that final time that you cannot make it at all.
And there's nothing stopping me from having an even smaller wager on them at 40s, mate. So
that's it. Would you make any changes off field or on field? I mean, we know that there's a new coach coming in.
When you say we know that there's a new coach coming in, you're talking about the 2 top candidates for the job that aren't in the seat?
Yeah, well, I'll go to that one. We know that there is a new coach coming in for 2025.
Yep.
Now, the media are reporting Josh Hannay and Jason Riles as the top 2 contenders. There was a mention the other day of Dean Young potentially becoming coach, but who do you think will be the coach in 2025?
I'd give it to the man who's got the seat right now.
Trent Barrett.
I don't think he's taken a step wrong. I think he manages the players spectacularly. I think he treats the media the way they deserve to be treated, and he doesn't give an inch. He believes in his team, and his team believes in him. I'd give it to him in a second. Any other changes I would make? I think our cattle is just our stock. Our stock is so low. We've had so many injuries this year. Our changes have been forced. I would have rested Sivo a little bit earlier, and freshened him up. But realistically, from what they had available, I wouldn't have made too many other choices. Simonson, I think, needed a bit of a rocket up his ass, but he got that, and he did really well while he was up. I find it hard to be negative, mate.
Oh, that's a good positive trait to have, to be honest. I keep on getting told that myself. Don't be negative, but no, that is a good positive trait to have. And look, Trent Barrett, he's had the coaching role at Manly and Canterbury, and talking to somebody today, I just don't think that he had the team there. It's a completely different team that he
was thrown in He was thrown in at the deep end at both those clubs with no support. He's had, 6 or 7 years under Arthur?
I don't think it's been that long, but...
how long was it? 4 or 5 years?
Nah, I don't think it's been that long either. I think it's been about 2, 3.
That he's been under Brad Arthur?
Yeah, I don't think he was with us in 22. So
okay,
I think 23 and 24, I think. But I could be wrong, but...
my point being, he just needed to sit a little longer under a head coach and learn how it was done. He's got the man managing ability. He's got the capabilities as a player. He's fresher as a player. He just didn't have the opportunity at those massive clubs because there was so much pressure going in. He was the head coach of Canterbury. He was the head coach of Manly. These are clubs that don't take losses lightly. At least we've sat him in under Brad Arthur so we can learn the systems. The systems are already in place. Mate, give him a chance.
Yeah, well, let's hope then he can get us into the finals. And
are you in agreement with me, mate? Would you put him in the seat?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would have.
Let me put it back on you. Let me put it back on you then, mate. Who would you put in the seat?
Look, I'd been thinking about this obviously, and I thought of the way left field option of Michael Checker coming in and
Well,
being.
he's gone.
Sorry.
He's just gone just yesterday, hasn't he? Signed for rugby overseas.
Yeah, well, I think he was unsuccessful, obviously, with the Parramatta job, so I think he's looking somewhere. But he wants to coach in the NRL. He's had a little bit of experience under Trent Robinson, not too much, but he has coached the Lebanese team in a World Cup.
I don't mind Michael Checker. I don't mind that as an option at all.
Well, the way I looked at it was the fact that it's someone with fresh eyes into the game, who may have some fresh ideas. And look, he's coached 2 national teams in rugby union as well. I know they're completely different games, but to coach, he can't be anybody just to coach a national team. So, and I mean, look at Australian rugby since he left; it's just gone way downhill. So, I probably would have picked him out of the 2 that probably. The media have been talking about Josh Hannay and Jason Riles. I think probably Jason Riles. Probably only because I think he will bring in his own people. I think Josh Hannay may have a lot of the people that are already there at Parramatta. He may bring in a couple of people of his own, but. I'd probably go Jason Riles.
Okay.
But we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know when that's going to be, though.
Did Josh Hannay do his time under up at North Queensland?
He's done. I think he's done a little bit up there. Most recently, though, he's done Cronulla. He's done an interim role there. I think when John Morris was there and he left, so I think he's done an interim role there. He's currently the assistant coach under Craig Fitzgibbon. He's a Queensland assistant coach to Billy Slater as well, which he's done that for a few years.
I thought the way that they put away North Queensland put away Penrith on the weekend showed a lot of class and probably something that Josh Hannay would have known about and learned from. So just a bit of sabotage and a bit of all that sort of stuff. Apparently, I heard on the weekend that they planned that game 4 weeks ago. The players that we're going to have on the field 4 weeks ago for that Penrith game. So just
coaching,
very smart coaching. Anyway, and he's assistant for Queensland. So what do you do?
Well, I guess as fans, we're not making the decision, so we just have to wait and see, and I guess support whoever gets into that head coaching spot, and because they're coaching our team, so I guess we have to get behind them and see how that goes. Hopefully, it's named sometime soon, because the later they leave it, players for next year and beyond are getting signed up by other clubs. So.
Who have we lost? Who have we lost to other clubs?
Obviously
Sanders.
Yeah, he's gone to Canberra. I haven't heard of any others at the moment, but what I'm saying is that players from other clubs that are potentially off contract or been asked to, they can test the market, have gone elsewhere. Just today, Satili Tupanua, who I thought could have been a good acquisition to Parramatta, signed a 4-year deal with the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Angus Crichton re-signed with the Roosters. I
don't think we're ever going to get Angus Crichton, mate. But anyway, my opinion stays the same. The guy that's in the chair at the moment has the dressing room and will continue to have the dressing room whether we make the finals or not. The question is whether he can impress the board enough to keep the gig for next year. I don't think we need to make the announcement anytime soon. I think the longer that Trent has the reins, the better it is for Parramatta.
We just have to wait and see what happens. for 2025. Time for the quick top 10, and it's sort of a yes, no, and you can elaborate on it if you want to. It's a bit of fun questions.
Sure.
Barbecue or tomato sauce?
Barbecue.
And the side question to that one is, where do you keep it?
In the fridge.
Oh, okay. Yep. On a plane, do you prefer the window seat or the aisle seat?
Always the window.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
Tea or coffee?
Both together. No, coffee.
Yeah. Arnold or Sylvester?
Oh, it has to be Arnold.
Yeah. Okay.
Has to be. Sorry, it has to be Sylvester. My apologies. Rambo.
Okay.
Rambo.
Yeah. What's your favourite Rambo movie?
One.
Okay. Yeah. I'm a 2 guy.
Okay.
McDonald's.
I'm certainly not a 5 or a 6 guy. That's for sure.
No. They seem to get a bit.
Long in the tooth.
That's right. McDonald's or KFC?
KFC.
Yeah. Morning.
Zinger burger, the one with no buns.
Okay. Yeah.
The 2 breast fillets with no buns. Beautiful.
Nice. Morning or night person?
Morning.
Summer or winter?
I don't mind either, but I'll go summer.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Now, what about cardio or weights?
Cardio.
Yeah, nice. All right, the set of
That's
six.
more than 10 questions, surely.
Well, there was a few little quick extra ones thrown in there. This is the set of 6, and there might be a 7 tackle set. So, there might be a repeat set. You never know, but these are sort of like the personality sort of questions. Favorite sport outside of rugby league?
Cricket.
Favorite holiday destination?
Hawaii.
Okay, nice. Never been there. Would like to go one day. Who would be the most famous person you'd love to meet and have a chat, either dead or alive? Movie star, music star, rugby league player.
I wouldn't mind meeting Billy Joel.
Okay, yeah. Nice. Well, that probably maybe falls into the next question. Favourite musician or band to listen to?
Motley Crue.
Motley Crue. Nice. What's your favourite Motley Crue song?
Girls, Girls, Girls.
Good choice. Favourite movie of all time?
Cars.
And the last one...
That's probably because I had kids at the time.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And the last one, what is your specialty dish in the kitchen or on the barbecue?
On the barbie, anyone can do a steak. In the kitchen, my specialty dish is a bolognese.
Nice.
With parmesan. But Dolmio sauce, parmesan. Very simple.
Yeah, I don't mind a good spaghetti bolognese, that's for sure. That's a very popular dish amongst guests that I've interviewed before as well. Ray Price, the other Ray Price, thank you very much for joining me today on the Parra Cave podcast. As I said in the intro, it's always great to talk to Parramatta fans and fans of rugby league, but especially Parramatta Eels fans, because obviously brings up memories for myself, and it's great to chat Parramatta, all things Parramatta, and no doubt we might catch up at another game this year at CommBank Stadium. So Ray Price, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much. I'll be at the South game Thursday night.
Welcome back, and thank you for listening to Ray Price and his rugby league supporting of the Parramatta Eels story. I really enjoyed it, and no doubt Ray and I will catch up at a game again at CommBank Stadium this year. Not too many more games to go this season, but look forward to catching up Ray and having a chat about the Parramatta Eels, and also, meeting up as well. And we will try and get that photo done with the legend player, Ray Price, and yourself in front of the Ray Price statue. We will try and get that one done definitely one day. I think that will be awesome. I think the Parramatta Eels should look at doing something like that, especially sometime next time Ray is down at a game at CommBank Stadium. That would be awesome, having 3 Ray Prices, one on each side, and the statue. That would be legendary. That would be great. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast for a chat. I really enjoyed it. I hope the fans did too. And as I said, we'll catch up at a game shortly this season again. Look, there's plenty to come on the Paracave podcast. There will be a review of the podcast of the game against South Sydney coming up as well. There will be a preview of the South Sydney game as well. Not too much to talk about there, as I did a sort of a more of an in-depth one the last time these two teams played, so I probably won't be going through as much stats and the like in this one, but I'll try and get one of those done as well. I'm not too sure about the timeline on that one, but anyway, we'll see what happens there. But there will be a review one coming out sometime after the game anyway. There will be a replay chat of my talk with the Duckman on Weekend Sports Wrap on Pulse FM 89.9 FM. And look, there will also be a podcast coming out soon about the Instagram questions that I put up on Instagram the other day as well. A couple of people got back to me with some questions, and I will do a podcast about them. So stay tuned to the Instagram channel, give it a follow, and there will be a time and here and there where I will put up a question time story where you can ask your questions to me and I can answer them as best I can, and I will do a podcast about them. And if that's something that you enjoy, please let me know. It can be anything about NRL, or can be anything about the Parramatta Eels, or anything like that as well. So some interesting content coming your way as well. Something else that is exciting news for the Paracave podcast, and if you're a supporter of the Paracave podcast and you enjoy the content coming through, you can buy me a coffee. Yes, that's right. You can buy me a coffee. I love coffee, and the more coffees, the better, I reckon. So what this is this is a little website, and you can support the Paracave podcast by buying them a coffee, and your support will help maintain and run this podcast as well, because as we know, the podcast isn't cheap to run. There are expenses that need to be paid to run a podcast. So what better way to support the podcast by buying me a coffee? From as little as $5 you can support the podcast, so that will be most appreciated. I will put the link in the show notes so you can see that one, and you can be a contributor and support the Paracave podcast, and that will be mostly appreciated. That is for sure. Other ways you can support the podcast is by purchasing a Paracave podcast hat as well, only $10 plus postage and handling, and just send me a message and on one of the social media channels, and we'll see what we can do. We can get that organised and send out to you as quick as possible as well. That is another way of supporting the podcast as well. Look, enough of me talking for this episode of the podcast anyway. I really appreciate you listening. I appreciate the support. If you like the content, please share it with your family and friends as well, and please leave a 5-star rating and review on the podcast platform that you listen on. That would also be mostly appreciated as well. I love looking through all the feedback as well. So thank you very much once again. Enjoy your footy over the weekend, and the Para Cave podcast by the fan for the fans. Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. See you next time.